This video, I just want to walk you through how you would get started with the Python Bootcamp assignment. Over here, I'm on Canvas. I'll scroll down to where you accept the assignment on GitHub Classroom. So you click on that link, which will take you to this page right here. And what that will do is that it will create a private repository for you on GitHub on the IT 2053C Jelani organization, and it will populate it with the starter files for this assignment. So I'll go ahead and accept the assignment. And then here's my repository link. I'll click on it to open it on GitHub. I'll copy the link to this repository. And I'll switch over to Visual Studio Code. I'll click on Clone Git Repository and paste in that link that we just copied. I'll hit return. It'll ask me where do I want to save that. I'll go to code. And I have my IT 2053C demos folder. And I'll select this as my repository destination. Then it will ask me if I want to open it in the same window or in a different window. I'll just go ahead and open it in the same window. Let me clean up the window a little bit, close everything that I do not need. And then I'll go ahead and open the notebook. I could also open the README file to see if there are any prerequisites for this assignment or if there are any steps that I need to follow and be aware of. And again, because this is written in Markdown, if you do not like to see it this way, you can always click on the preview, which will basically present it as if it was a PDF file. Also, just another tip, if you're on github.com over here and you scroll down, this is the README file already populated in a kind of easy to read view. I'll switch back to Visual Studio Code and I'll go back to my coding drill assignment. First thing I need to make sure that I have is my virtual environment that we've set up for this class. So if you haven't done that already, please go back to the video where we set up our virtual environment. I also have the setup scripts available for you. So if you run the setup.py with the username as an argument, it will create the environment for you. But since we already have that, I'll just go ahead and click on select kernel. And I'll go to Python environments and I'll select the virtual environment that we've created using Anaconda on this machine. Now that I see the name of my virtual environment populated here, we are ready to go ahead and get started with this assignment. This has a number of drills and different exercises that I want you to go through to basically get acquainted with the Python language and with all the different syntax changes that we have in the language. So the first one here is an analyst profile and a project setup. It gives you a scenario based on the introduction that we saw over here. So what this is asking us to do is basically populate this cell here with all the correct information. So I will be replacing the analyst name with my name. I will be replacing the project title with the title that is being requested of me right here. And the overall outcome of this cell should be an F string or a formatted string that shows the information of the project in the following format. So let me go ahead and start working on that. I'll remove the none and replace it with my name. Update the project title with Customer Analytics Dashboard. Day's date, and it needs to be in this particular format, so 2025-08-24. And finally, the version, we need to set this to a float variable of the value 1.0. So I'll just go ahead and do that. I can also go ahead and remove all of those comments if I kind of want to clean up my code a little bit more. And all right, and finally the project header. Again, we want it to look in this particular format. Let me double click on this actually and copy that format. And let's just hit the check so it goes back to the rendered markdown format. And then in my project header, I'll replace this with triple double quotes to allow me to have a multi-line. I'll paste in whatever I copied. I'll make sure that I clean up the indentation here because this added some extra indentation that was not intentional. And over here. Now, obviously, this is a formatted string, so let me put in the F and make sure that I replace these hard-coded stuff with the actual values or the actual variable names. So I'll remove this and put in, this is the project title where it has the analyst name. Let me replace this with analyst name. Let's replace this with the date, analysis date, and finally the version. Now, finally here it has a request to print out whatever that project header looks like. So I'll go ahead and remove that pass. Probably every time you see the word pass, this is what you're gonna need to replace with your code. So I'll do print and project header. Let me go ahead and execute this cell. And here we go. We get that response in the format that we needed. It used all the variable names that we have set earlier on here. And I'll make sure to save the project. This assignment is set up with a bunch of automated checks that basically will test the output of what you are typing, and it will confirm to you whether it is passing the test or if you have missed any of the requirements in that assignment. To do that, there are multiple ways we could do this. I'll go ahead and open a new terminal. In that terminal, I need to make sure that I am activating the virtual environment that we're using here, which is the IT 2053C. So I'll type in conda activate IT 2053C. Now that I know that I'm in my virtual environment, again, this is just the way I set up my terminal window. It may look a little bit different for you, but from here I can type in PyTest. And what that will do is that it will execute all the automated checks that we have in the assignment. The way this works behind the scene is that it takes your notebook, converts it to a Python file that you see over here, and then it runs the automated checks against it. So you can see here there are 21 that have failed, 7 that are passed, and if I scroll up a little bit, usually you can see which one has passed and failed. Usually it's the first thing. So over here you see that the test drills 1 analyst profile, all the test has passed, and then for the rest of these, they are still in the failure state. Another way you could also check if your tests are passing or not is, I'll scroll down all the way to the bottom. Let me just close this window here. When I run PyTest, I can specify exactly what test do I want it to execute. So if you see over here on the left, I have a tests folder, and basically every drill has a separate test file. So if I just want to make sure that my analyst profile checks are passing, I will come over here, PyTest, and then provide the path to where this test is, which is drill 1. And tests drill 1. Here we go. Hit enter. And it basically comes back saying that all 6 tests that we have in this file have passed. Later on, we can talk a little bit about how do we write PyTests, but for now, let me just walk you through what that looks like. In here, you'll see that it's checking for certain patterns. So basically says, do I have all the required variables set up or not? Do I have the correct project header, and does it come back with the header that we have specified? So there's a number of checks that it's trying to assert, and if it's not, it will usually give you an error back saying, this particular thing is not set up correctly. Remember, as soon as I finish that drill, then I'm gonna go to my source control tab here on Visual Studio Code, and I'm gonna go ahead and commit the changes that I've made. As a best practice, I usually like to actually click on those files to see exactly what those changes are. So over here, it shows you what it used to be and what changes you've made, and then we'll go ahead and actually commit this. So in the message, you have to provide a message that describes what you have done at this date. This is for GitHub so that you can always go back and see the state of your code at each one of those snapshots that we're basically doing over here. So I'll go ahead and type in a message. This is completed drill 1. I can go ahead and hit commit. And if I do a commit without syncing my changes, this is only a commit or only a snapshot that lives on your local computer, does not make it to GitHub, does not make it to what I get to see. So always make sure that you hit the sync changes button to push those changes to GitHub. Now, if I switch back to my browser over here and I'll reload the page, you'll see that the last commit that was made was a completed drill 1. it was made just now. And you can see this pending circle that basically says that there are some actions that are being done behind the scene right now to check for the correctness of your code. I'll wait a few minutes for this to complete and then I'll show you what that would look like. All right, so we get this X mark here that basically says there's a failure. So what happened here is that because not all the auto grader tests that we've had have passed, and it's only 6 out of however many we have right now, basically we get this X mark. So ideally, when you finish the assignment and finish all the drills and exercises, this should be a green check mark at the end. Now, let me show you also what that would look like if you go into the details view. And then you scroll down into the, if I collapse this for a second, these are all the checks that have been executed. And then if you go to the auto grading reporter and scroll all the way to the bottom, you see the different test runner files that we have, the score associated to each one of those files, and basically what your grade is out of 20. So in this case, because I only got this one file and this file was assigned a max score of 4 points, then I get 4 out of 20. So now you should go back to the assignment, start working on the other drills and finish them one by one. And hopefully by the end of it, you'll have a 20 out of 20 completed. Now, let me actually show you one more thing, one more way to check for the results of your automated tests that are being ran here. If I go to the testing tab on the side, and if you don't have the extensions set up correctly, this is probably what you might see different. Over here, I can see there are a number of tests, again, split by the files, and I can execute them one by one. So if I don't want to run the automated checks in the terminal over here, so let me go ahead and close that, I can go over here, hit the play button or the run test button next to the analyst one, and I see that I get a check mark, meaning that all the tests in this file has passed. If I expand this even further, I'll see specifically which test has passed and which ones have failed. So if let's say we go to the age segment assignment or the age segment drills, there are multiple checks that it will be doing. Basically, it will be checking. If I scroll down over here, there is a segmentation of customers that you're going to need to create a function that basically receives a number of the age, and in return, it will return either child, teen, adult, senior, based on that age that has been provided. So here is a number of checks that will be executed. So if you provide 0, that's a child, 5 is a child, and then if it's a 12, it's still a child, but then once you hit the 13, so on and so forth, you see that the values are different. So let me just go ahead and do this in a wrong way. Obviously, this is not what you should be doing, but I'll do if the age is 0, I want you to return child. And this is a string, so I need to wrap it in double quote or a single quote. And if I execute this, nothing is happening because the function does not actually print anything. I can create my own print statement to check if the function worked the way I expect it to or not. So if I go down here, I can do print get age segment, and if I provide the age 0 and hit enter, I should get back a child. So this is how I know that this is working correctly. But I also can go over to the left over here and execute the test for if it receives the age 0, it should give back a child. So if I run this, looks like this particular test is passing, but if I try to do the same thing with 5, obviously it fails because we have not coded the function in a way that handles all ages properly. So make sure that you finish this correctly. Sometimes you'll see that there are hints in the notebook. So if I click on the caret symbol here, you'll see a hint. Basically, it's telling you probably should be using the if and else if and the else chain to basically code the conditions for the age segmentation here. Now I'll leave the rest of this for you to finish, and hopefully by the end you should get all green marks. And remember, at the end of each drill, you want to go back to source control and push your code. That way you have a history of the changes that you've done on GitHub, and you are committing your code frequently. And so if anything happens to your computer, if it dies out, the code that you have finished will already be on GitHub, so you're not going to need to worry about having to repeat all that work again.